Welcome to the Dental Brief, the world's direct, right-to-the-point podcast produced to get you the information you need to learn and grow your practice. To learn more about our guests and find links to information discussed on our show, visit our website, dentalbrief.com. On to today's episode.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Dental Brief. I have back with us today, very special guest, so much enthusiasm, so much excitement. It's going to be a lot of fun. Sean Crabtree from the Crabtree Group. Sean, say hello.
Hello, good morning. And yes, I appreciate that. Lots of energy today, even though it's raining and there's nothing to be energetic about.
Yeah, I think there's plenty to be energetic about. And I think we're going to.
Well, this is true. I was trying to be low key, my friend.
I know, but I've had you on the show multiple times, and energy is always there, and it's much appreciated. And I think all of us could use that. I know when I get off talking with you here on the show, I'm all pumped up for the day and the day after, and maybe even 4 or 5. So glad to have you here.
Thank you, Patrick.
Yeah, glad to have you here. So tell us a little bit about the Crabtree Group. Tell us a little bit about your background and what you do.
So, just the quick version is at the Crabtree Group, all we've done for the last 23 years is work closely with dentists and dental teams from Vancouver to Barbados, all over Nassau and the Bahamas, and almost every place in America. What we do is we find out as much as we can about sort of who it is, how it is, what it is, where it is that a doctor wants to be with their practice. Why is it they want to be there? And then we take a super deep dive and fully examine where they are across all areas and departments of the practice. And then we help them develop strategies to get them from where they currently are to sort of where it is that they want to go. And then we hold their hands and push and pull and hug and whatever it takes to make sure that those strategies are being implemented hourly, daily, weekly, monthly, and yearly so that they get massive success. Our guys on average will grow 48% in terms of production collection. If you don't know much about the numbers in the U.S., the median growth of a general dental practice in the U.S. is about 2 to 3%. Our guys on the whole will grow 48%. It's not uncommon for them to grow 100%. And it is also not uncommon for them to do that 100% growth working fewer days and fewer hours in the day. And I think one of the ways, there are lots and lots of, opportunities and systems and processes that you can implement on a team to be able to help the business grow. But one of those things is the subject matter that you guys are wanting to talk about today, which is a big one. And it's treatment acceptance. That is the thing ultimately that brought me to dentistry. I started out many years ago. I'm a lot older than you guys, as you know, Patrick. But I started out.
No argument there.
See, I knew I could count on you for that one.
Yep.
I started out in telecommunications back. They called it cellular telephony. That's how old I am back in the day. Wow. So I started out in that industry right out of college. And like most industries, as the industry matured, there were roll-ups and roll-ups happening in dentistry right now, as a matter of fact. But there were roll-ups. And I think after the 6th buyout, our company was owned by a company called GTE Wireless. Yeah. And there were like 680,000 employees worldwide. And then from there, I think the week after I left, a company called Verizon bought them. I come from the sales community, and everybody I knew that I, interacted with understood the concept of how to create value. But when I got to dentistry, nobody knew that. And for a young guy, that was really exciting for me. I knew a language that nobody else really knew. And so that was really the concept of creating value is the thing that really got me excited about dentistry. And it's still something that's probably one of the number one things that most dentists seek out from us is that concept of what happens from the time the phone rings all the way through the visit to culminating into the financial arrangement. How do you create value?
Yeah.
That's probably a longer answer than you wanted, my friend.
No, it's not. And I'll tell you, it's so important. I think you hit it right on the head. It's all about creating value. And I think that's the focal point of every business should be in creating tremendous amounts of value.
It should be.
customers, for their clients, or their patients. So I just want to tell our audience right now, this is going to be a long episode. We may break this up into 2 episodes. We may just kind of keep it long because I think this is really important. And I'm going to start throwing some stuff at you, Sean. And I'll let you start taking some swings here. But
are you trying to tell me not to be so long-winded? Is that what you're about to say?
Oh, no, not at all. It's just such an important subject, and I want to make sure, I feel like this is the type of podcast that can make a tremendous impact financially in a practice. You and I were talking about staffing issues that are rampant in the dental industry right now. And hey, if your case acceptance is up, guess what you can do? You can pay your staff a little bit more money, right? And maybe that help keeps them along, or more bonuses, or more time offer, whatever it takes to motivate and keep people. Case acceptance is going to help you do that. So it's going to be part of that. And so I do want to tell our audience, I know that you do a lot of things, and case acceptance is a low-hanging fruit in this industry, right? It is. And there's a reason why. I want our audience to know that there's so much more than case acceptance that you focus in on. That's just a small part, but it is important. So let me throw this out at you. If you got a practice that's doing, let's say, $900,000 a year, right? I just picked that number. You've got one dentist 4 days a week, and they're at 50% case acceptance, half. And they bump that number 75%, 70%. Now we're closer to 1.5, 1.6, right? Mm-hmm. I just quick math in my head. Net profits on that money are through the roof, correct? I mean,
totally.
Fixed expenses are covered, right?
Totally.
So the difference for a lot of practices that may be struggling right now, or practices that are going, hey, I'm going to have to work 10 years longer than I want, or practices where the owner's going, how am I going to pay off the student debt? Case acceptance is the starting point, I think, to help start moving that needle real quickly. So we know it's a problem. We know a lot of dentists struggle with it. We know a lot of team members struggle with it. Tell me, what are some things that we can do, that practices can do today to start to increase their case acceptance?
Boy, that is a wide open question. And let me just go back to what you said a moment ago. In your analogy that you just made up, let's suppose it's a $900,000 practice and they have a 50% treatment acceptance rate. You know what? That doesn't happen. Unless they have systems right now, I can tell you that historically what I've found, believe it or not, when I walk into a practice for the first time, they got a 19% average treatment acceptance rate. And 9 times out of 10, it's not even being tracked. And the one that is being tracked, guess how they're tracking it? We presented all this work. Patient said, yes, I'll be here Tuesday, and they scheduled. Great, that's accepted, right? Well, that's not accepted. Unless they actually show up and they pay and they do the work, it's not accepted. So that 19% is really not even fair to begin with. The other thing I would throw out at you is something that when you were talking about the challenges, there's no doubt that treatment acceptance is low hanging fruit. If you're a dentist or you're on a dental team and you're hearing this, you may not see it as low hanging fruit. It is absolutely the lowest hanging fruit, and it doesn't take a lot. Your focus needs to be in different places. Really, your team members' focus needs to be in different places. But one of the things I think that is very overlooked in terms of the value of increasing your treatment acceptance, and I just had a conversation with a doctor about this earlier. It's not simply that it's a matter of increasing your income, and with the example that you gave, you're kind of decreasing your expenses because your direct costs are staying the same, right? You're just getting a better result. But in addition to that, things like your schedule. Doctor, if you've been practicing for 15 years, 10 years, 5 years, whatever it is, and you're coming in and doing a single unit filling, and you've got, your day is packed with these small procedures, you're having to see patients 4 and 5 times to complete their work. That means your chair time is not maximized. That means your stress level is through the roof. And so it's much bigger than just what you and I are talking about right now.
Sure.
The doctor that I was just talking with was saying, it's not just, he's saying, I can't, and I applaud him so much for saying this, because I've been the one trying to have doctors see this sometimes as the guy on the other side. But he said to me, I think the problem is, Sean, when I'm talking to a patient, I don't present the entire case. I present the next step, and then I look at their reaction. And then I back up and I give them some other options. Maybe we could patch it. Maybe we don't have to crown it. Maybe we could just patch it for the time being. He said, I end up diagnosing their wallet or their pocketbook rather than doing what's best for them. And he goes, when I think about it, I understand that when I do a patch and a patch and a patch and a patch, and then I ultimately have to do a crown, that patient has spent more time with me and more money with me than they should have if I had just done, boom, a crown right away. I understand that, but in the moment, I'm focused on the wallet. And I'm not thinking about all the times that that patient has to come in and all the other patients that have to come in for the patch and the patch and the patch and the patch. My schedule, it drives me crazy. All of these things are revolving around great results would change your stress level if you had great treatment acceptance.
Yeah.
Now, in terms of, what could you do? I can tell you the first thing, the first biggest challenge that I see is patients coming in as new patients, not qualified on the intake call. And I think when I say the intake call, I mean the first contact of the patient calling the office as a new patient. When that patient calls in the office, they are a consumer, just like you and I and everybody else on this Zoom, right? We are consumers. And when I pick up the phone and I call a business, I've got one thing on my mind. Now, in the dental scenario, that one thing, and you guys have all heard it, the patient picks up the phone and they call and they ask, what do you charge for a crown? Do you take my insurance? How quickly could I get in? Whatever that one thing is that they want to know the answer to, that's what they're calling about. And the way it normally happens is the person on the other end answers the question, tries to talk the patient into scheduling. 9 times out of 10, it doesn't happen. They say, okay, thank you. They call the next place in line. Do you take my insurance? What do you charge for a crown? Whatever. The one time that they do schedule the patient shows up completely under the wrong mindset. And what they're thinking in their mind is, A, I've got insurance and they take my insurance, and B, it covers everything. And they walk in and they've got $6,000 worth of work because they haven't been to the dentist in 10 years and they got all these issues, and the patient's not ready for all that. They're not prepared to hear it, all because we didn't qualify the patient on the intake call. That is the biggest opportunity that I see. And it's an easy thing to do, right? You just ask the questions so that you can direct the patient's focus. They're calling about this one thing. You want to ask them other questions to help them understand that there's these other things going on. I'm not talking about diagnosing over the phone. I'm talking about directing the patient's focus in terms of, oh, yeah, I forgot I had a broken tooth. I'm trying not to go long on this, but I just walked through an office that I've been working with for a very long time. I just walked through a patient recording on an intake call the other day, and the patient called and did exactly that. Hey, yeah, my name is so-and-so. Do you guys do you take my insurance? Because I need to come in for a cleaning. Okay. Yep. And he starts asking questions, qualifying the patient. In a minute and a half, right, after asking these questions, the patient goes, now, again, a minute ago, I'm calling because I need to come in for a cleaning, right? Sure. If she had scheduled the patient would have walked in thinking, they take my insurance, I'm going to get a cleaning. That's what the patient would be thinking.
Sure.
As a couple of questions were asked, the patient goes, yeah, I've got a broken tooth over here on the lower right side. And oh, by the way, yeah, I've got one over on the left side as well. I forgot about that. And then I've got this tooth in the front I took a blow a couple of years ago. It's recessed really bad. Long story short, this patient is coming to the realization, I was asking this one question, but now I realize I got a lot of stuff going on. Sure. Now the patient is in the proper mindset and they're prepared. They're also coming in not with the mindset, I'm going to get a cleaning. They're coming in going, wonder what it's going to take to get this fixed. And they're also thinking, how am I going to pay for what my insurance doesn't cover? A lot of people, a lot of consumers believe that dental insurance is like medical insurance. And of course, you and I know it's not. Right. It doesn't cover everything. And there's actually a max. So that would be the number one thing.
Sean,
keep going.
I want to talk about the value here a little bit, okay? And I want to talk about that intake, and you asking these types of questions. I want to share something. I've shared this before on the show, but I'll do it again because I think it's really important. When we talked about value, we talked about intake, we talked about you talked about diagnosing the wallet, if you will. And I think that's a big mistake, because I know from experience, I know that there's a lot of people that have the wherewithal to buy any dental work that they want to build. But for a period of time in life, they did it, right? And I do think that dentists do look at people's mouths and go, wow, there's a lot that needs to be done here. This person may not have much money. Seems like it could be true, right? I would say that probably that person at one time didn't have much money, right? They probably didn't come from the type of home where mom and dad were on top of them about their teeth all the time. There's a lot of people out there that have a significant income, not in the white collar, hey, I'm going to brush my teeth and floss twice a day type of world, that now have that money and can take care of this dental care, right? So you don't know who's sitting in that chair, and you don't know how much money they have ever. And some of the people that you think, you see the Gucci purse and the BMW, they may have more debt than, they may have more, right? So, So talking about the value and what I'm going to share, I didn't take great care of my teeth as a child. Really, honestly, nobody told me to brush my teeth. And my teenage years, obviously, I started to develop some problems from not taking care of my teeth as a child. Then I started to do okay financially, and I didn't really spend much money on my teeth or think very much about it. And about probably 10, 12 years ago, I was searching the internet, on Facebook or whatever, and I saw this, get your real age, figure out your real age. And it was actually on an Oprah link on to Oprah's site. She had this real age assessment test. And so I took this thing. I'm answering all these questions. Do you go to the gym? Do you do this? Do you smoke? Do you used to smoke? How much do you drink? And one of the questions was, how many times do you floss every day? And, I answered the question honestly, which of course was yes, everybody flosses every day. No, I answered it no. I didn't. It came to the end of the test, and it gave me an age that was within a couple of years of my actual age. And that stuck with me. I'm like, what is this flossing thing all about, right? I go back into the test. I back till I get to the flossing question. I hit yes. It added 4 years to my life.
Wow.
This test, right? Hopefully flossing every day adds 4 years to my real life too. At that time, I started to realize the next thing that I thought, and I'm a thinker, I thought, hey, is it people that floss every day just take really good care of their overall health, and that's why it's adding? Or is it that flossing actually makes
really adds to? Yeah.
Anyways, at that moment, that's when dentistry became important to me. That's when my oral health became important to me. And now when my dentist says, you need to do this, boom, I do it, because I go, I want to live 4 years longer, right? Yeah. I want to do this. So I would even say on that intake, I don't know why dentists don't ask that question and phrase it in that type of a quiz. Did you know that flossing every day can add 4 years to your life? Right? Do you know that this dental care can add this? I don't think they really do that. And I don't think the time to do it is when, and you're the expert here, but I don't think the time is to go, oh, you need a crown. Did you know if you don't get this, you're going to die? But you do it passively when you intake them. You educate your patients. You put together videos so they know, hey, wait, I saw that a year ago, and now you're telling me that I need this. They're not connecting you telling them at that time they're going to die if they don't do the work. But it's going to be there. That value of why this work is important is going to be there. What do you think about that?
I think what you're touching on, Patrick, is the key to creating value, because in your scenario, the timing was right, and you were thinking about the rest of your life. You're thinking about aging, and you're thinking about that kind of thing. For you, that was the thing that motivated you. Now, every person is different. Every person, depending on the stage of life that they're in, is different as well. So the key to what you're saying is the basics of how to create value. The consumer doesn't know any more about dentistry than I know about the insides of a car engine. Right. And I wouldn't pretend to be knowledgeable in that area. I think the average consumer is the same way when it comes to dentistry, but they do know that there's something that they want emotionally. They want to live longer. They want to be more confident with their smile. They don't want to be embarrassed either because of the way it looks or because they can't eat certain things. All of these things are the basics of why you and I and every human being on earth makes decisions. Now, the challenge for dentistry is, other companies on television, online, they spend millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars. Coke, Pepsi, BMW, whatever, even, Samsung, iPhone, whatever. They spend millions of dollars driving the consumer to their brand. It's all emotional. Right. You and I, Everyone makes decisions based in emotions. And if you're a dentist and you're going, I don't do anything based on emotions, it's very factual. It's just not true. You make decisions emotionally. We all do. Everybody does. Even if you consider yourself completely devoid of emotions, you're not. Yep. You and I and everybody we know, we make decisions based on emotions. So as a doctor, you're not going to be able to, or a hygienist or an assistant, you're not going to be able to educate your patient to the level that you're educated in the time that you're spending there. But what you can do is find out what it is that they want emotionally, and then show them how the thing that they need dentally. And I'm not talking simply about fix and repair kind of dentistry. I'm not talking about only decay, problems. I'm talking about possibilities. When a patient can open up and tell you what it is that they want and what they're not happy about emotionally, then and only then can you show them how what you can do dentally can get them what it is that they want emotionally. That's the basics of creating value. And it's the same thing with me and my HVAC guy, right? There's no difference. It's all the same. Yep. My HVAC guy, by the way, there's a lot, the HVAC guy, he gets just as pumped up about thermals as a doctor gets pumped up about clinicals, right? And so when my HVAC guy came out and he took a look recently at one of my units, he was smart enough to know there's 2 or 3 ways we can go in terms of, we could replace the unit, we could fix it, we could patch it, we could do this, we could redo it, rework it. There's a lot of ways we can go. But before he presents me with all of these options, he finds out what's most important to you, Sean. What are the things that are most important to you in terms of what you want, emotionally from this house? How long are you going to be here? And then based on that, there's a single best diagnosis.
Right.
It's not conservative. It's not aggressive. It's the best diagnosis based on where I am and what's going on. And that's the same. That's exactly how you create value. The trick, though, is this. It needs to happen starting with the intake call so the patient is under the proper mindset. And then it happens from the time they walk in the door. This is before the doctor comes in for the exam. And doctor, think about this, okay? Right now, what's going on is your assistant or your hygienist is talking about the weather and where the kids go to school and all of these kinds of things. And then you come in, you look in the mouth and you go, whammo, you need this, that, and the other thing. You need a crown here, you need a veneer here, or whatever. The patient is totally not prepared. Their first reaction is, how much does that cost? What does my insurance cover? Because there's no value created. So you then try to talk them into, here's all the bad things that could happen if you don't get this done. And you're spending all of your time trying to convince the patient of why they need it done because you're the person who has the knowledge. It should be the opposite of that. Before you come in, your assistant or your hygienist should find out what it is emotionally that's most important to the patient. They should already have some conversations about some possibilities. When you come in, it's a completely different scenario now. The patient has been brought to the realization that I have this concern. I am sick and tired of feeling this way, and I am looking for the solution. I don't know what it is yet, but when the doctor comes in, I'm going to get the solution. Now, when you present the case, it's a solution that the patient already has discovered a need for. It's a completely different scenario than what's going on right now. So a moment ago, I said it's not difficult, but you have to put your focus in different places than it is right now.
Yep. I'll tell you, you're so right about that. And, you brought up the HVAC, and I think it's important for dentists to actually think about the transitions, the transactions that they're involved in.
Yes.
Things that they buy and what kind of moves them and why they make the decisions to look at that. When you brought up HVAC, just this summer I had a new furnace. My air conditioning went down. I ended up putting a new furnace and a new AC in. First, I took 4 companies. First 2 companies didn't even talk to me about the furnace. I will just replace the AC. And the whole time I want the furnace, right? And the reason why I want the furnace, finally the 4th company, by the way, figured this out. I want reliability. I don't, the cost, sure, of course, like anyone else, I have a budget. But to me, there's more cost than having my furnace go down if I'm in a different state, right? Or it's 0 degrees out. We saw what it looks like to not have heat and electricity in Texas, in Colorado, by the way. But that's really important to me. To me, the cost of having a furnace or an AC go down in extreme climate is so much higher than the actual cost of putting you.
And if the first company
they started talking about,
if the first company had said, Patrick, I've taken a look here at the unit. Okay, let me ask you what's most important to you. If you had said, look, reliability is the most important thing. Hey, I don't want to overspend, obviously, but look, I want the confidence of knowing that when I adjust the thermostat, it's going to be there and I don't have to worry about it, right? Then they would have said, well, then here's what you need. And here's why that's going to give you the confidence that the reliability is there. And that would have created value for you, right? But instead, you had to do more legwork. And there's a lot of value in that if I'm the doctor.
Yeah, and the ones that didn't talk about that it actually created a friction, because I'm like, come on, dude, you're not listening to me, right? You're actually why are you not giving me what I want? Why are you being so difficult? I just want reliability, because they're not listening, right? Or they're not asking, or they're assuming what's important to me. Which in Colorado was like efficiency. Well, of course, efficiency is important, but it's not as important. I would rather have a less efficient a furnace that works than one that's perfectly. I should say a furnace that doesn't work is 100% efficient, right? So. I'd rather have that. So I'm going to shift this a little bit. And you talk about emotion, and emotion is really important. The emotion of having my family freeze is through the roof, right?
Sure.
Case acceptance has actually, for a lot of people, has like a negative connotation to it, right? There's a lot of people, it's selling and we don't sell and we're not salespeople and on. But I want to talk about this for a little bit. And you talk about striking emotion. When I hear about striking emotion in TV commercials, the first thing I always think about is beer commercials, right? If you drink XYZ brand beer, you're going to get the guy in the swim trunks, the girl in the bikini. You're going to be on a boat or on a beach, right? You're going to all of a sudden, the 6-pack of beer is going to turn into a 6-pack stomach. These things are but think about it. That's the commercial. And the next thing I think about, I'm old enough to remember cigarette commercials, right? And this stuff is pure poison, but they would strike an emotion and say, your life is going to improve if you smoke XYZ brand, right? Or this or what have you. They actually sold cigarettes through emotion. And we have something like dentistry that actually improves people's health.
Exactly.
It would be easy to strike emotion. And what's wrong with selling that?
There's nothing wrong with it. And, I would challenge anybody who's listening to find a single commercial that you see that is not tapping into emotion.
Have to.
It's 100% emotion, 100% everything. Coke and Pepsi are not selling brown, sugary, carbonated liquid. They are trying to get you to attach an emotion and a feeling to their brand. Yep. BMW, AT&T. I mean, the list goes on. Subaru. What is Subaru? The latest Subaru commercial I saw. Subaru, it's love, right? I mean, everybody is all about emotion, everything, because it works. And the thing that we can learn, if you're a dentist, you own a dental business, here's what you can learn. There have been billions of dollars spent to do the research to come to this conclusion. The great news is you don't have to go discover it. It's already there. Put your energy into what it takes to be able to find that out, right? And we have a whole process that we do in Dental Profits Academy. We have a whole course that we dedicate to it, and with our online coaching and all of that. I think just to go back to what you're saying a moment ago, there is, and I've been dealing with this issue. I am older than you, as you pointed out earlier. I can remember.
You pointed it out. Just so
I'm just messing with you, but I can remember even as early as like 15 years ago, if I were to use the word sales in front of, the Midwinter or the Yankee Dental or wherever I'm speaking, I'm old enough to remember that people would freak out about that. They would wrinkle up their nose and all of that. It's not that bad anymore. But I will give you this. There are plenty of salespeople that give sales a bad name. That doesn't mean that sales itself, there's a reason that salespeople are the highest paid people on the planet, because it is a profession. Right. And just like there are salespeople that give it a squirmy kind of a, mushy kind of a icky, name. There are dentists who also do the same thing in dentistry. There are judges and lawyers and CPAs, et cetera. People are people. And, it's not a mark on the profession.
Right.
And there's a reason. I think it's one of the most moral, professions out there myself. I don't think that there's any other way that you could help people at a higher level than to be in sales and find out what their problems are and give them solutions.
I think it's actually, and this is me, we all tend to think everyone thinks like we do ourselves, and that's obviously not the case. But I know there is a good part of the population. If you're not offering them the highest level of care,
yes.
If you're not presenting that to them, you're doing them a disservice. That is worse. That is just as bad, I should say. It's not worse. In my opinion, that is just as bad as, filling a cavity that maybe that doesn't need to be filled. I think it's real close, right? Because I want the highest level of care, but in dental, right? Other areas I care less about it, right? There's a lot of things I don't care about. So
right.
I think that's really important. It popped into my head when we talk about emotion, we talk about sales, and when we talk about dentistry. Look at the toothpaste section of the grocery store. You got 4 different toothpaste with 50 different brands and 50 different logos and 50 different sayings and taglines on those because they're trying to strike emotion with that person's same stuff, right? There's very, very little difference between it. So I think that's really important. Sean, give me the secret. Give away some value here to our audience. What's the number one thing that someone can do today that they can implement today? It doesn't take a lot of strategies. It doesn't take a lot of team involvement that they can do today. Listen to the show, get out of their car, and make a difference in their sales.
Okay, so I'll answer it like this. In addition to focusing on the intake call and asking these questions to create value chair side, let's move to the last part of it. Something that's super simple that you can implement immediately is on the financial arrangement, which is the last part, let's say, of a new patient visit. On the financial arrangement, look at every single thing you do and throw it all out the window and recreate that process to make it as easy as possible for the patient to say yes. One of the easiest things that you can do to do that is, if you've got the value created chair side, now the financial arrangement is simply about the financial arrangement. In most offices, that's not the case. We already talked about the problems where the doctor comes in and is trying to convince the patient because the patient is not properly prepared and there's no value. The other piece that happens is the diagnosis is made clinically. It's all clinical jargon. And then it's turned over to the financial person who is not called the financial coordinator. They're called the treatment coordinator. And then that person who is supposed to make the financial arrangement then presents all of the treatment in a sheet with like a buffet with prices on each one of them. And the patient who doesn't see any value already in what was diagnosed now begins to look at that as a menu and begins to pick and choose. What if I didn't take the bun? What if I just took the burger and you kept the pickles and no lettuce, right? And how much would it be then, right? Eliminate all of that. Create the value chair side. Make sure that before you turn it over to the person to do the financials, all of the treatment questions have been answered. Patient understands it. Patient sees the value and what it's going to get them, and they're ready to go. Now the financial part is all about just the financial. And to make it as easy as possible to say yes, it's okay to give them a treatment form, right? But if you're going to give it like a buffet with all these prices, don't go there. Present the prices in terms of third party. There's a reason that companies do that. It's because it makes it as easy as possible for the patient to say yes. And when your patient can walk into Best Buy and sign their name and walk out with an 80-inch flat screen television, but you're trying to collect $300 on a crown that they don't see value in. And by the way, they totally see value in the flat screen television. All right. Because Samsung is pumping that at every possible opportunity, and you don't have that opportunity. Make it as easy as possible by presenting everything in third-party terms, right? The goal would be to make it as easy as possible. Look at Honda, look at BMW, look at, Ford. I mean, every commercial doesn't say that this F-150 is $58,764.28. Right. It says it's $0 down and $99 a month, right? Put yourself on an even keel with the people that you're competing against. And by the way, your competitors are not other doctors. You're competing with companies that are going after those same discretionary dollars. And that patient that tells you that they can't afford that dentistry because their insurance doesn't cover it, I've seen it happen a million times, and everybody who's listening has seen it happen too. That patient who says they can't afford it because they didn't see value, they get out and they walk out into the parking lot and they get into their King's Ranch 2021 F-150 that cost $85,000, right? That's fully loaded. And they're telling you that they can't afford the $500 or the $300 or the $200 or whatever you're asking for in a copay.
Hey, that's a good point. And I know a lot of our listeners have luxury cars. I've got a newer truck, and I got everything on it. I got everything on it, right? I don't even use navigation. It's on my phone. I don't use it on that. It's $2,100, right? Yeah. That it'll, won't smash into a car in front of you on cruise control. I used it like one time to check out. It was $1,000, right? Never use any of that, but I'm paying for it and I don't even use it. There's zero value, and I still bought it because I thought I wanted it or I thought I needed it. So you're 100% right. I love the F-150 analogy, by the way. I think you're right on the money. So
that actually happened just recently.
You got one?
No, it just happened recently where I was in an office and this patient said that they couldn't afford the work. And I was asking, I'm looking out the window as they're getting into their King's Ranch, right? Why do you think they didn't? Well, they couldn't afford it. Our patients can't afford that kind of stuff. Look at the vehicle he's driving.
Yeah, go to a Best Buy and just watch your customers come in and out of Best Buy with those big screens that you're talking about. Even when 2008, when we were in the worst economy I've ever seen, I was Best Buy. Like, this is a bad economy, right? I got to wait 25 minutes in line, right, to buy something there, and so the perception matters so much in what we think, and when we start to realize that, hey, we're not competing against other dentists, right? We're competing against value and what they see as value, right? And
value. Let me say this. Let me say this too. Yeah, you said perception is so important. Listen. If you're a team member or a doctor and you've been practicing for a number of years, if you've never learned the things that we're talking about, how to create value, then all you've experienced is, I can't afford that. All you've experienced is, how much does my insurance cost or cover? And over time, you start to make a connection in your head that, wow, maybe my patients really can't afford it in this area. Wow, maybe and that gets into your psyche, and then it starts to affect whether or not you're diagnosing comprehensively. Then it starts to affect, if you're the financial coordinator, whether or not you're comfortable presenting the entire case in third-party terms and all that. The perception is huge. You got to realize that just because that's the stuff that you've heard doesn't mean that it's really true. Patients are just like you and I, they're consumers. And they're not going to stop and think about it in that moment and say, doc, I understand what you're saying. I hear that you're saying I need this crown. But the truth of the matter is, it doesn't hurt. I don't really see any value in it. And gosh, I've been wanting to get that flat screen TV for the man cave. And, I've been wanting to, we're thinking about a trip to Italy or whatever. And, they're not going to say all that. They're going to say, well, how much does that cost? Oh, what does my insurance cover? Right?
100%.
So, I'm saying, don't let your past experiences be the dictator of what you believe. Learn from podcasts like this. Talk to people like us. Read books. I got a great book coming out here in a couple. Well, I don't know. I've been saying this for several weeks. Maybe a couple more weeks or a month. I got a great book coming out that really details this whole concept that we're talking about. It's called How to Multiply Your Dental Practice Revenue Without Necessarily Multiplying the Number of New Patients. It doesn't have to be that hard. And you can sort of see with all the things that we've talked about here, how it touches on that.
Yeah, and I'll make sure that we get the book listed on our site for sure, and on social media too, because I definitely think it'll be, I haven't read it myself, but I know where it's coming from. It'll be a worthwhile read. Speaking of where it's coming from, Sean, your website's thecrabtreegroup.com. I want to encourage our audience to go. There's a lot of great information. I think there's even a free course that they can take on there, a very low cost course on there with a ton of value on it. Here's what I want to ask you, and here's what I want you to answer. There's a lot of people that do coaching and consulting and help with things like case acceptance, help dentists with that. There's a lot of them, and like everything, there's some really excellent ones, there's some good ones, and there's some bad ones. Tell my audience, and obviously you don't have the bandwidth to work with everyone, so I know you won't have a problem answering this, and you truly want to help dentists. what do they need to look for? What are some things that they should look for when they're looking for an expert such as
Boy,
yourself?
that is, I have not been asked that question in many years, and that's a really good question. If I'm a dentist, and you're right, I don't have the bandwidth, and my goal is not to have the Crabtree Group be the biggest out there for sure. The biggest thing I can say is this: the challenges that are holding you back are not the things to do. What's holding you back is the mindset and the beliefs that have been instilled in you, either through your upbringing or if you've been practicing a while, what you've experienced. You've got to have somebody that understands what it takes to help work you through those things. Now, I'm not trying to say it's all psychological. I'm not trying to say, you got to you're looking for a shrink. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is you have to have somebody who understands that the challenges are limiting beliefs. The challenges are legacy behaviors. The challenges are the dynamics in the practice. The challenges are the culture, because how to do it is A, B, C, D. There it is. But doing it is having somebody who is working you through all of those, or it's never going to get done. A strategy is only a strategy if you have the ability to implement it. Otherwise, it's a to-do list. And a to-do list is not going to stay in place.
Yep. Great advice. Sean, thanks so much for coming on.
Patrick, it is always a pleasure, my friend. I enjoy hanging out with you. You and I think exactly alike.
Yeah, we do. We're on the same page about most things, I think, if not everything. So audience, check out the crabtreegroup.com. Sean Crabtree, thanks again. We appreciate it.
Thank you, my friend. Take care.
Thank you for joining us on today's episode. Did you know you can weigh in on today's topic on Facebook? Search The Dental Brief on Facebook or visit our website, dentalbrief.com, and just follow the link. We look forward to having you join us again on another episode of The Dental Brief.